My name is Maya Bennett. I'm 34 years old, and the first time my mother told me my son was not family, he was still inside me. I was 7 months pregnant, standing in her living room with swollen ankles, a plate of untouched cake in my hand, and a blue ribbon pinned to my cardigan that said Mommy to be. The cake said, Welcome Baby Bennett in white frosting. The gifts were stacked beside the fireplace. From my mother's church smiled too hard. The way people smile when they know something ugly is coming, but do not want to be the first to name it. Then my mother lifted a champagne glass and said, Before we celebrate, I need everyone to understand something. This baby will not carry the Harper name. The room went quiet. My husband Elias stood beside me. His hand moved to the small of my back, steady and warm. I looked straight at him and smiled like she was being polite. We have traditions, she said. Standards, a family legacy. Maya has made her choice, and we respect that. But we will not pretend every choice belongs inside this family. May corrected her. Not my father, not my sister, not one woman in that room who had eaten food Elias paid for. I remember looking down because Noah kicked hard right then, as if even unborn, he understood a door had just closed. 9 years later, same mother sat across from me in an attorney's office and slid a custody petition across the table. She had written that my home was culturally unstable. She had written that my husband was not an appropriate influence. She had written that I had denied my son access to his real heritage. And then she asked for temporary guardianship of the same child she had refused to call her grandson. But the part that made her hand shake came 5 minutes later. My attorney opened a blue folder and placed a trust agreement in front of her. Noah's name was on the first page. My mother's name was nowhere. And the signature at the bottom belonged to the one person in our family she had spent years pretending never loved me. That was when I finally understood something. Some people do not come back because they miss you. Back because they found out you still have something they want. To understand how we got there, you have to understand what kind of daughter I was before I became the kind of mother who kept proof. I grew up in Franklin, Tennessee. Two-story house with black shutters, trimmed hedges, and a front porch nobody sat on unless someone was taking pictures. My father, Grant Harper, owned a small insurance agency. My mother, Lorraine, taught Sunday school, hosted charity luncheons, and measured people by how well they fit into the life she had already approved. I was the oldest daughter, which meant I learned early how to stand still while people adjusted me. Smile smaller, Maya. Don't talk back, Maya. The blue dress, not the red one. Your sister can get away with that. You cannot. Clara was 4 years younger and somehow born already forgiven. She broke curfew and my mother laughed. She crashed my father's car into a mailbox, and everyone called it a teenage mistake. She dropped out of college for a semester because she needed space, and my mother turned the guest room into a calming retreat. Got a B in chemistry once, and my father did not speak to me for 2 days, so I became careful. That was my talent. I could feel the mood of a room before I entered it. I could hear my mother's disappointment in the way she set down a fork. Tell from my father's sigh whether he needed me invisible or impressive. By 25, I had a degree in hospital administration, a steady job, me and a savings account my mother liked to mention at family dinners as proof she had raised me properly. Then I met Elias Bennett. He was not loud, that was the first thing I noticed. He had a calmness that made other people reveal themselves. We met at a community health fundraiser, where I was checking guests in, and he was volunteering with a nonprofit legal clinic. He was a civil rights attorney then, still building his career, tired man in a rolled-up white shirt, helping elderly tenants fill out housing forms while donors drank sparkling water across the room. I spilled coffee over a stack of name tags. He handed me napkins and said, "The senator's badge survived. See, continues." I laughed before I remembered to be composed. That was how it started. Not dramatic, not perfect. Just coffee, paper name tags, and a man who made me feel like I had stepped out of a room where I had been holding my breath. Later, I told my mother about him. She asked what church he attended before she asked what he did for a living. When I said he was black, she became very still, not angry. Still, that was worse. Molded the dish towel in her hands into a perfect square and placed it beside the sink. Maya, she said, you need to think about what kind of life you're choosing. I have thought about it, I said. He's kind, he's smart, he treats me well. Isn't what I mean. I know what you mean. She looked at me then, really looked, and there was something in her face I had never seen directed at me before. Embarrassment, as if I had shown up to a formal dinner barefoot. Tried another route. He invited Elias to lunch at the country club, then spent 20 minutes asking him where he was from. Elias answered every question with more patience than my father deserved. Chicago, Northwestern, Vanderbilt Law. His parents were both retired teachers. No, he had not played basketball. No, he had never been arrested. Yes, he understood exactly why my father was asking. After lunch, my father pulled me aside near the valet stand and said, "He's very polished." I said, "You mean educated?" His jaw tightened. "I mean polished." That night, Elias and I sat in his car outside my apartment while rain dotted the windshield. I apologized for my father. Elias looked ahead for a long moment. "You have to apologize for him," he said. "But eventually, you're going to decide how much access he gets to hurt you." I remember being offended, not because he was wrong, because he had said out loud what I had spent my whole life arranging furniture around. The proposal came a year later in our kitchen. I had the flu. My hair was in a knot. There were tissues on the counter. Elias made soup and placed the ring box beside the bowl like it was the most natural thing in the world. "I want real life with you," he said. "Not just the pretty parts." I cried so hard I could not breathe through my nose. When I told my parents, Mother did not congratulate me. She sat at the dining room table with her hands folded and said, "Do you understand what this will do to the family?" "I'm getting married," I said. "I'm not committing a crime." Sister Clara snorted from the kitchen doorway. "Don't be dramatic. Mom's just saying people will talk." "Let them," I said. That was the first time in my life I saw my mother lose control of her face. It was small because I stopped pretending it would become big. Elias's parents came, his sister came. My friend Tessa stood beside me in a pale green dress and cried through the vows. My family did not attend. My mother sent a text at 6 morning. "We cannot support this decision. Please do not contact us until you are ready to think clearly." I stared at the message while Tessa zipped my dress. She saw my face in the mirror and said, "Do you want to sit down?" No. Something strange happens when the people who raised you finally do the worst thing you feared. You think you will collapse. You think your bones will come apart. But sometimes you just become very quiet. The fear has already happened and you are still standing. Elias read the text once. Then he put my phone face down on the vanity and took both my hands. "We can leave," he said. I shook my head. "No. I'm not letting them be the reason I don't walk toward you." So I walked. There were empty chairs on my side of the aisle. I saw them. Everyone saw them. But when Elias turned and looked at me, his face broke open with such tenderness that the empty chairs became smaller. Not gone. Smaller. For 2 years after that, my family treated me like a roomer. They did not invite us to Christmas. My mother mailed birthday cards with only my name on the envelope. My father called once when his office printer jammed because I used to fix it for him, then hung up when Elias answered. Clara posted photos of family dinners with captions like, "Us together," while I sat on my couch with my husband and tried not to count the chairs. Then I got pregnant. For 2 months we kept it private. We went to appointments. We heard the heartbeat. We bought a tiny pair of yellow socks from a store we wandered into after lunch because neither of us could leave without them. Then I made the mistake people with broken families always make. I thought a baby might soften them. My mother on a Sunday afternoon, my hands shook so hard Elias sat beside me and held one of them. She answered with, "Maya." Like my name was a strange number calling. "I have news," I said. "I'm pregnant." Silence, not happy silence. Overwhelmed silence, calculating silence. "How far along?" 12 weeks. Another pause. "And you're keeping it?" I pulled my hand away from Elias because I did not want him to feel me flinch. "Yes, Mom, I'm keeping my baby." "Well," she said, "congratulations are in order." I should have ended the call. Instead, I cried after she hung up and told myself she was just surprised. 2 weeks later, she called back. "I've been thinking," she said, the tone she used when she had already decided what everyone else would do. "Whatever has happened between us, this baby is still connected to our family." I closed my eyes. "That's good to hear. I'd like to host a shower." This was making tea at the stove. He turned around slowly. I covered the phone and whispered, "She wants to throw a baby shower." He did not look pleased. He looked careful. "Ask her why," he whispered. I did not. That was my mistake. Maybe it was not a mistake. Maybe some part of me needed to see the truth in a room full of witnesses. The shower was at my parents' house on a Saturday in April. My mother invited women from church, neighbors, cousins I had not seen since the wedding they skipped. She did not invite Elias's mother. When I asked why, she said, "I didn't have her address. I gave her the address. She still did not send the invitation. Elias wanted to stay home." And there, looking back, I am ashamed of that. Not because he was my husband and did not belong there. He did. I'm ashamed because I knew those people would hurt him and I still asked him to stand beside me so I would not have to stand alone. He came anyway. He wore a navy shirt and brought flowers for my mother, like they were something slightly damp. For the first hour, everyone performed kindness. There were games with safety pins and guesses about the baby's weight. Clara took photos but only from angles where Elias was cropped out. Mother corrected a woman who said the baby would have beautiful curls. "We don't know what he'll look like," she said tightly, then came the toast. Stood near the fireplace with a champagne glass in her hand and thanked everyone for supporting Maya during this complicated season. Complicated, as if my son were a weather event, then she said the sentence. "This baby will not carry the Harper name." Elias's hand moved to my back. I heard Clara whisper, "Oh my God," not in horror, in excitement. My mother kept going. "Maya has chosen a different life, and as painful as that is, we respect her freedom. Our family traditions remain our family traditions. We can love from a distance without pretending every choice is equal." Every choice. I looked at my father. He stood near the window, staring into the backyard. "Dad," I said, "not turn around." That silence did more damage than my mother's words. Elias spoke before I could. "Lorraine," he said quietly, "we're going to leave now." My mother smiled. "Of course you are." I handed my paper plate to Clara because it was either that or drop it. She leaned close and said, "You knew this was going to be awkward." I looked at her. "No, I knew you were selfish. I didn't know you were cruel." Her face changed. Just for a second. Like I had slapped her, maybe I should have. In the car, I made it 4 blocks before I started shaking. Elias pulled over beside a small park and turned off the engine. "I'm sorry," I said. He looked at me like the words hurt him. "Maya, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have brought you. I knew. I think I knew." He unbuckled his seatbelt and turned toward me. "Listen to me. You did not create their prejudice by hoping they might love you." That made me cry harder. It was too kind and too true. That night, I blocked my mother's number for the first time. Not permanently. I was not that strong yet. Just one night. Then 1 week, then through the birth. Noah came in June during a thunderstorm. Arrived furious, red-faced and loud, with a full head of dark curls and fists clenched like he was ready to argue with the world. Elias cut the cord with trembling hands. His mother, Denise, cried openly. Father stood by the window and whispered a prayer. My family did not come to the hospital. My mother sent flowers, white lilies. The card said, "Thinking of you." Not congratulations, not love, not his name. "Thinking of you." Threw the card away and kept the vase because I was still practical even when I was heartbroken. For the first 3 years of Noah's life, my family existed like bad weather far away. Sometimes you could smell it in the air, but it did not always reach the house. Elias and I built a life with routines so ordinary they felt sacred. Pancakes on Saturdays, walks after dinner, library story hour, rocking chair in Noah's room where Elias made up stories about a brave turtle named Professor Shellington who solved mysteries with snacks. I went back to work part-time, then full-time. Elias made partner at his firm. Modest brick house, with a maple tree in the front yard and a back porch where Noah learned to blow bubbles. We were happy, not untouched. Happy. There is a difference. Then, when Noah was 4, my father showed up at my office. I was working at a regional hospital by then, managing patient accounts. It was the kind of job that taught me how panic looks when printed in numbers. People cried over bills in my office. They brought folders, envelopes, explanations. Apologized for being sick as if sickness were a budgeting error. So when the receptionist called and said, "There's a Grant Harper here to see you," my first thought was that someone had died. He looked older than I expected. Smaller somehow. It always seemed carved from certainty, but that day his suit hung loose and his eyes were red. Maya, he said. I stood behind my desk because sitting felt too intimate. Is Mom okay? He nodded. Yes, she's fine. Clara? Fine. And he looked at the chair across from me and asked, May I? I nodded. He sat down and placed both hands on his knees. I know things have been difficult. That was my father's gift. Turning cruelty into weather, difficult, complicated, unfortunate. Things were not difficult, I said. His mouth tightened. Your mother handled it badly. I laughed once. I could not help it. And you handled it. Lee, how? He looked down. I should have said something. Yes, I said. At least once. Silence filled the room. Then he reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out an envelope. I found something while going through your grandmother's old papers. My grandmother Ruth had died when I was 19. She was my father's mother, and the only person in the Harper family who had ever made me feel seen without making a project out of it. She had soft hands, sharp eyes, and a habit of slipping me books with notes inside them. Keep asking questions. Small people make your life small. I loved her deeply. My father slid the envelope across my desk. It was addressed to you, he said. I should have given it to you years ago. I stared at it. My name was written in Ruth's handwriting. Grace Harper. I did not touch it. How many years ago? He swallowed. Before your wedding, something cold moved through me. You opened it? No, Mom did. His silence answered. I picked up the envelope. It had been carefully lifted and pressed back down. My mother's kind of violation. Neat. Almost invisible unless you knew where to look. Inside was a letter from my grandmother. And a business card. Vivian Cole, attorney at law, family trusts. States. Guardianship. The letter was only 1 page. My dearest Maya, if this reaches you when it should, then I have done at least one thing right. There are people in this family who believe love is inheritance, something they can grant or withhold. Wrong. Love is conduct. Remember that I have made provisions that your father and mother may not understand and may not approve. Do not argue with them about it. Call Vivian. She will know what to do if you ever have a child. Want that child protected from the kind of belonging that comes with conditions. You deserved better from us. All my love. Grandma Ruth. I read it 3 times after my father left. Closed my office door and cried so quietly my assistant never heard me. That evening, I showed Elias. He read the letter standing at our kitchen counter, while Noah sat on the floor trying to convince a plastic dinosaur to eat a Cheerio. Elias reached the end. He looked at the business card. Have you called this attorney? Not yet. Do you want to? I looked at Noah. He was growling at the dinosaur, completely unaware that his great-grandmother had reached across years to place a hand between him and people she did not trust. Yes, I said. I think I do. Vivian Cole's office was in a converted brick house near downtown Nashville. In her late 40s, direct without being cold, with glasses she removed whenever someone said something foolish. She read my grandmother's letter and nodded like she had been expecting me. Ruth was very clear, she said. About what? Vivian opened a file drawer and removed a blue folder. The trust. I stared at her. What trust? Your grandmother created a generation-skipping trust. Small at first but well invested. It benefits any child legally born to or adopted by you. Your sister, not your parents. Your child. I could not speak. Elias reached for my hand under the table, Vivian continued. As of last quarter, approximately $740,000. The room seemed to tilt. My child has a trust? Yes, restricted use. Education, medical needs if approved by trustee, and later distributions at specific ages. You do not control it. I do. Did my mother know? Vivian's expression changed slightly. Mother called me twice after Ruth's death. She asked whether the trust could be dissolved because it was, in her words, divisive. And you told her? I told her no. Elias's thumb moved slowly over my knuckles. Vivian leaned forward. Maya, carefully, the trust is legally sound, but money changes how people behave, especially people who believe they were cheated. Ruth worried your mother might attempt to access the trust indirectly. Indirectly how? Pressure, influence, of family necessity. In extreme cases, guardianship. The word meant nothing to me then, guardianship. It sounded like something that happened in families where people screamed in courtrooms, not in mine. The cruelty wore pearls and wrote thank you notes. Vivian slid a document toward me. This is a notice of beneficial interest. Keep copies of everything. And Maya? I looked up. Do not tell your mother unless there is a reason. I almost laughed. Hasn't asked about my son in 4 years. Vivian did not smile. Money can improve memory. She was right. It just took 5 more years. 5 years is a long time to wait for people who never come. Long enough to stop checking the driveway. Noah grew from a toddler with sticky hands into a 9-year-old boy with long legs, bright eyes, and strong opinions about ancient volcanoes. He loved Greek mythology, hated tomatoes, carried a small sketchbook where he drew buildings with hidden rooms. He asked questions that made adults pause before answering. Why do people say sorry if they're going to do it again? Can someone be related to you and still be a stranger? Do grown-ups know when they're lying? That last one came while we were folding laundry on a Sunday night. I looked at Elias across a pile of towels. He raised his eyebrows like he was not touching that question first. Handed Noah one of his school shirts and said, "Sometimes they do, sometimes they've practiced so long they forget." Noah thought about that. That sounds dangerous. It can be. He nodded seriously and went back to matching socks. That was Noah. Tender, observant, and sharper than people expected children to be. He had Elias's patience and my habit of noticing when a room changed temperature. I hated that he had inherited that from me. Should not have to read adults like weather maps. But even with all our careful love, some instincts are passed down like eye color. For years, my mother existed only in objects. A Christmas card addressed to Maya Bennett and husband. Birthday card with a $20 bill inside, sent only to me, a scarf I never wore. No birthday gift for Noah, no phone call, no school recital, no message asking if he liked dinosaurs or baseball or pancakes. Nothing. Then Clara got divorced. Had married Preston Vale, whose family owned 3 car dealerships and a lake resort. My mother had treated that wedding like a royal event. Champagne silk dress, live string quartet, 8 bridesmaids. Sir, a reception with white roses hanging from the ceiling like the whole room had been designed to prove Clara had been chosen correctly. The marriage lasted 6 years, the divorce lasted 18 months and cost more than some homes. And I heard pieces through Tessa, who still had cousins who knew people from Franklin. Preston's lawyers had been brutal. Clara's spending became public record. My parents mortgaged their house to help her. My father's insurance agency had already been struggling after losing 2 major accounts. Then Clara moved back into my parents' house with designer luggage, legal debt, and the kind of panic that looks like entitlement when it has nowhere else to go. Not celebrate it. I need you to understand that. I did not sit around waiting for karma to perform tricks. I had a husband I loved, a son who needed help with fractions, and a job at the hospital that filled my days with enough real suffering to keep me humble. But I kept the documents, every card, every text, every voicemail. The baby shower program Clara had designed, where Noah's full name had been carefully avoided. The hospital flower card that said "Thinking of you." My grandmother's letter, the trust notice. A printed copy of my mother's old email to Vivian, one Vivian had provided after I requested the full file. Your client's decision has created unnecessary division in our family. Maya has already chosen to separate herself through marriage. Any assets meant for future descendants should remain within the Harper line. Within the Harper line, my son's blood was apparently too complicated for inheritance, but simple enough for custody. The first sign came on a Tuesday in October. I was making dinner when my phone rang from a number I did not recognize. I answered because I work in hospital administration, and unknown numbers are sometimes emergencies. Maya? I knew the voice immediately. My mother. It had been nearly 3 years since I had heard it live. I turned off the burner. Lorraine, she inhaled sharply as if my use of her name had injured her. I'm still your mother, are you? There was silence then, controlled and sweet, hoping we could talk. About what? About healing. I looked across the kitchen. Noah was at the table, pencil between his teeth, frowning at math homework. Elias was helping him, pretending not to listen and listening to every word. Healing, I repeated. Yes, I know mistakes were made, that sentence, mistakes were made. A passive little coffin where accountability goes to suffocate. What mistakes? She sighed. Maya, I didn't call to relitigate the past. Why did you call? Another pause. I'd like to see my grandson. The word landed wrong, not because she said it, because she said it too late. I looked at Noah. He had drawn a dragon in the margin of his worksheet. You don't have a grandson, said. Maya, you made that clear before he was born. People say things during emotional times. Yes, I said. And then they spend 9 years proving they meant them. Elias looked down, but I saw his jaw tense. My mother exhaled. Trying here. No. You're asking. That's unfair. What's his middle name? Silence. I waited. Maya, don't do this. What is my son's middle name? She did not know. I ended the call. My hands were shaking, but my voice had not. Looked up from his homework. Who was that? I smiled because children do not need every adult truth at once. Someone from my old family, he considered that. Are they nice? Elias and I looked at each other. No, I said softly. Not always. Nodded like this made sense. Then he asked, can old families become new families? I walked over and kissed the top of his head. Sometimes. But only if they learn how to be kind. That night, after Noah went to bed, I sat on the back porch under a sky full of cold stars. She knows, he said. I did not ask what he meant. The trust. Somehow my mother knew. I think so, I said. Vivian warned us. I know. He leaned forward, elbows on knees. What do we want to do? That was one of the reasons I married Elias. He did not ask, what are we going to do? Not first. He asked what I wanted, because he understood my life had been full of people turning my choices into family votes. Protect Noah. Then that's what we do. The second sign came 4 days later. A letter arrived in a cream envelope with my parents' return address. Inside was a handwritten note from my father, Maya. Your mother has been trying to reach you. I know there is pain between all of us, but family should not stay divided forever. Noah deserves to know where he comes from. Your grandmother would have wanted unity. Please call. I read the line about my grandmother 3 times. Then I went to the file cabinet in our home office and pulled out Ruth's letter. If you ever have a child, I want that child protected from the kind of belonging that comes with conditions. I made a copy of my father's note and placed it in the folder. Elias stood in the doorway. You're adding it? Yes. Good. A week after that, Clara texted, I know things are weird, but Mom is really upset. And you're being cruel keeping Noah away from his real family. I stared at the words real family until my vision blurred. Real family, as if Elias's parents had not babysat through fevers, school conferences, and emergency work shifts. As if Denise had not sewn Noah's first Halloween costume. As if Elias's father had not taught him how to ride a bike while my father lived 23 minutes away and had never once asked whether the child had knees. I typed 3 different responses, deleted all of them, then I wrote, what is Noah's birthday? Clara did not answer. I screenshotted the exchange and added it to the folder. That may sound cold. Maybe it was. By then, I understood something I wish I had understood younger. When people rewrite history, memory is not enough. You need paper, you need dates, you need proof. Because someday someone will sit across from you with a calm face and tell a stranger you were the cruel one. And if all you have is your pain, they will call it emotion. But if you have records, they have to call it evidence. The custody petition arrived 11 days before Thanksgiving. A sheriff's deputy handed it to me at work. That is how my mother chose to do it. Not a phone call, not a warning, not even the decency to send it to my home. She had me served in the lobby of the hospital where I managed 42 employees. The deputy looked embarrassed. Are you Maya Bennett? Yes. I'm sorry, Mom. The envelope was thick. My name was on the front, Maya Grace Bennett, respondent. Mother's name below it, Lorraine Harper, petitioner. I signed because refusing to sign does not make paper disappear. Then I walked to my office, closed the door, and read every word. Petition for temporary guardianship and emergency custodial review. My mother alleged that Noah was being raised in an unstable ideological environment. She claimed Elias's legal work exposed our home to activist influences. She claimed I had alienated the child from his maternal heritage. She claimed my refusal to permit contact showed emotional instability, and then came the sentence that made my body go cold. Petitioner has reason to believe the minor child is beneficiary to certain family assets, and that respondent may be improperly influencing or restricting access to said assets. There it was. Not love assets. I read it once, then again. Elias, he answered on the first ring. Maya? I got served. He did not swear. Elias rarely wore when angry. His voice got lower. Where are you? My office. Is Noah with you? No school. I'm calling Vivian. I already am. That sounds strange to me. Too calm, like it was coming from a woman across the room. Maya, he said, breathe. I am breathing. No, you're functioning. Breathe. That was when I broke, not loudly. I did not scream or throw the papers. I sat at my desk in my locked office while employees walked past outside laughing about lunch orders. And I pressed one hand over my mouth so nobody would hear the sound that came out of me, because my mother had done many things. She had humiliated me. She had rejected my husband. She had denied my son. But this was different. This was not a cruel toast at a baby shower. This was a legal document with my child's name inside it. She had reached past me. She had reached for him. In me that had been bruised for years became very still and very sharp. Vivian saw us that afternoon, not the next day, not when her calendar opened, that afternoon. Sat in the same conference room where she had first told us about the trust. The blue folder was on the table before we arrived, along with a yellow legal pad and a recorder. Noah was with Denise. He was eating spaghetti and watching a documentary about volcanoes. We told him there was a grown-up paperwork problem. That was true. Not complete, but true. Vivian read the petition without changing expression. Only once did she remove her glasses and place them on the table. That was when she reached the phrase culturally unstable. Elias stared at the wall. I put my hand on his knee under the table. Vivian looked up. Maya, it's your permission to be direct. Please, this petition is weak legally. Very weak. Grandparents do not simply get custody because they disapprove of a marriage or want access to a trust. I nodded, but my throat was too tight for relief. She continued, it is aggressive, which means your mother is either desperate, badly advised, or both. She knows about the trust, Elias said. Yes, how? Vivian tapped the petition. Language suggests someone saw or heard enough to know assets exist, but not enough to understand the restrictions. Clara, I said. They both looked at me. Her divorce, financial disclosures. My parents helped with legal fees. Maybe they found old papers. Maybe Mom told Clara years ago and Clara said something to her lawyer. Vivian nodded. Possible. I reached into my bag and removed the folder I had built over 5 years. Vivian's eyebrows lifted slightly. What's this? Everything. My grandmother's letter, my mother's email, the baby shower program, the flower card, screenshots.sex, my father's note, a written timeline, every attempt they had made, every absence, every silence. Opened the folder and went still. Elias looked at me with something like awe and sadness mixed together. How long have you been keeping this? He asked. Since Vivian told me money improves memory. Vivian glanced at him. I did say that. She reviewed the documents slowly. With each page, her face became less attorney and more witness. When she reached Clara's text calling them Noah's real family, she circled the phrase. She reached my mother's email about keeping assets within the Harper line. She placed it aside. This, she said, is important because it proves money, because it proves motive. Then she looked at both of us. To respond quickly and firmly. We will not merely deny. We will document abandonment, prejudice, lack of existing relationship, and financial motive. I recommend we request attorney's fees if this is found frivolous or brought in bad faith. Elias nodded. Do it. Vivian looked at me. Maya? For a second, I was back in my mother's living room, pregnant and humiliated. For someone else to defend me. Then I remembered my son at the kitchen table drawing dragons. Do it, I said. Vivian made notes. There may be a preliminary mediation before the hearing. His attorney will likely push for visitation as a compromise. No, I said. The word came out before fear could soften it. Vivian looked pleased. No, no visitation, no access, no private calls, no school pickup, no medical information. Elias covered my hand with his. My son is not a settlement, I said. Vivian wrote that down. Maybe she was taking notes, maybe she just liked the sentence. Either way, it became true the moment I said it. That night after Noah was asleep, stood in his doorway and watched him breathe. Doctrines do this. We do not admit how often. We stand in doorways and count the rise and fall of small chests, because love makes us grateful and terrified in equal measure. Rooms smelled like laundry detergent and pencil shavings. A half-built Lego courthouse sat on his desk because he had decided that week he wanted to become either an architect, a judge, or a person who designed secret tunnels for museums. His wall was a framed photo of him between Elias's parents at his kindergarten graduation, Denise's arms wrapped around him. Elias's father leaned down with a grin wide enough to split his face. There were no photos of my parents. Once I had removed them, because none existed, Elias came up behind me and slid his arms around my waist. "He's okay," he whispered. "I know, but I did not know, not fully, because for the first time, I understood how money could turn my mother's rejection into performance and her performance into danger. She won't win," Elias said. "I'm not afraid she'll win." He rested his chin lightly against my hair. "Then what?" I watched Noah turn in his sleep, one hand tucked under his cheek. "I'm afraid of what she'll do when she loses." Elias said nothing, because he knew my mother too. The preliminary mediation was scheduled for the first Monday in December. Mother arrived in a cream suit and pearls. Clara came with her, though she had no legal reason to be there. My father came last and sat 2 chairs away from both of them. That told me something. Not enough, but something. My mother's attorney was a man named Randall Pierce, who had the glossy confidence of someone used to frightening people with letterhead. He shook Vivian's hand too long and called me Mrs. In a tone that made my married name sound like an accusation. Vivian smiled once, not warmly. "Let's begin," she said. We sat in a conference room with glass walls and a long table. Elias sat on my right, Vivian on my left. Emma sat across from me, hands folded, eyes bright with practiced sorrow. For 9 years, she had not known my son's middle name. That morning, she brought a framed photo. It was not a photo she had taken. It was a school picture she had printed from the Academy website, where Noah had been listed as a third-grade science fair finalist. She placed it on the table in front of her like evidence of love. I stared at the photo until my stomach turned. "It's my child's picture from the internet," I asked. My mother blinked. "I'm his grandmother. You're a stranger with a printer." Clara scoffed. Randall lifted a hand. Emotions are understandably high. Vivian did not look at him. "Perhaps your client should explain why she filed for guardianship of a child she has never met." My mother's lips trembled. "I have been prevented from knowing him." I felt Elias go still beside me. Vivian opened our folder. "Prevented since birth?" My mother looked wounded. "Maya made it clear we were not welcome." Vivian slid the baby shower program across the table. "Is this from the event you hosted when Maya was 7 months pregnant?" My mother looked down. Color rose in her neck. Vivian turned another page. "And is this a written account of the toast in which you publicly stated the unborn child would not carry the Harper name?" Randall leaned forward. "We dispute the characterization." "I don't," said. The room froze. My mother turned toward him. "Grant." He looked at the table, not at her. She said it. It was the first time in 9 years my father had defended the truth before he defended peace. It did not heal anything. It changed the air, Vivian continued. "Mrs. Harper, what is Noah's full legal name?" My mother's mouth tightened. "Noah Bennett." Full legal name. She glanced at Randall. He said nothing. My mother looked back at Vivian. "Noah Elias Bennett." Recently. Too recently. Vivian made a note. "And his date of birth?" My mother answered correctly, also recently. "What school does he attend?" She answered. "What is his pediatrician's name?" Silence. "Geez, does he have?" Silence. "What was the name of his kindergarten teacher?" Silence. "What comfort object did he sleep with until age 6? My mother's face hardened. "I don't see how that's relevant." "It is relevant because you're claiming a meaningful grandparent relationship and requesting custodial rights." Randall cut in. "Client is asking for temporary guardianship review due to concerns about the child's environment and maternal alienation." Vivian turned to him. "Your client has never been inside the child's home. She has been excluded. Did not send birthday gifts, request visits, attend school events, call on holidays, or provide support of any kind for 9 years." My mother's eyes flashed. "Because Maya punished us." Elias spoke then. His voice was calm. "No, Rain. We protected our child from people who treated his existence like a stain." My mother looked at him as if he had slapped her. "You have always twisted everything." He did not react. That was one of his strengths. "Let people reveal themselves without helping them hide." Vivian slid another document forward. "Let's discuss motive." Randall's expression sharpened. "My client's motive is family reunification." Vivian placed my mother's old email on the table. This email from Mrs. Harper to my office states that assets meant for future descendants should remain within the Harper line. It was sent years before she made any attempt to contact Noah. Mother went pale. Clara leaned over to look. Mom, she whispered. Vivian placed the custody petition beside it, and this petition references family assets, so I'll ask directly. Mrs. Harper, are you seeking contact with Noah because you believe he is beneficiary to a trust? My mother looked at me, not Vivian. And there she was, the woman from the baby shower, the woman behind every folded towel, every cold silence, every carefully worded wound. You don't understand what it's like, she said. I almost admired the audacity. What's like? To watch everything your parents built get handed outside the family. Elias's hand found mine under the table. Outside the family, there it was. 9 years compressed into 3 words. Vivian let the silence sit. Randall whispered, Lorraine, stop talking. But my mother had already opened the door, and for once I was going to let everyone walk through it. At her across the table. Say that again, I said. She blinked. What? Say my son is outside the family again. But this time look at his father when you do it. My mother's eyes moved to Elias and away. Clara shifted in her chair. Peter covered his face with one hand. Randall cleared his throat. I think we should take a break. Vivian closed the folder. I agree. When we return, I'll be presenting the trust terms, the communications history. Request that your client withdraw this petition immediately. My mother stared at the blue folder. That was when her face changed. Not when she heard about my pain, not when Elias spoke, not when her own husband admitted the truth. Face changed when she realized I had kept the proof. The break room was small, windowless, and too cold. I stood beside a vending machine, staring at a row of candy bars behind scratched plastic, trying to slow my breathing. Stood close enough that his sleeve touched mine. You did well, he said. I don't feel well, that's different. I laughed once, quietly because he was right. In my family, doing well had always meant not crying. Well meant absorbing humiliation neatly. Doing well meant letting my mother leave a room, still believing she had been the injured party, but that morning, doing well meant something else. Meant letting the truth sit on the table without apologizing for its weight. Vivian came in carrying her legal pad and 2 paper cups of water. She handed one to me and one to Elias. She hurt herself badly, Vivian said. I'm so emotional. Yes, Vivian said, and I'll say emotions do not file custody petitions. What happens now? I give them one clean path, Vivian said. Withdraw with prejudice. No guardianship claim. No direct contact with Noah. School contact. No medical contact. No more legal threats. If they refuse, we file the full response and request sanctions. Elias looked at her. And the trust? Still protected. Your mother has no access. Your sister has no access. Has no unilateral access either, which helps us. This was never money Maya could hand over even if she wanted to. I stared at the paper cup in my hand. She thought I'd fold. Vivian's face softened. She counted on the daughter she remembered. Sentence went through me slowly. The daughter she remembered. The girl who apologized for being hurt. The girl who waited outside closed doors. The girl who thought love could be earned by staying useful. I was still that girl in some places. But not where Noah was concerned. When we returned to the conference room, my mother had composed herself again. Given 10 minutes and a mirror, Lorraine Harper could turn panic into dignity. Randall Pierce had removed his jacket. That told me he was worried. Vivian sat down and opened the blue folder. My clients will agree to one resolution, she said. Mrs. Harper withdraws the petition with prejudice, agrees to no direct contact with the minor child, communicates with Maya and Elias only through counsel unless invited otherwise in writing. My mother's lips parted. With prejudice, she said, absolutely not. Vivian looked at Randall. Then we will file. Randall cleared his throat. It's a structured visitation schedule. No, I said. Everyone looked at me. My voice did not shake. No visitation, no calls, no school pickup, no photographs printed from websites, no letters to my son through relatives. Nothing, Clara scoffed. This, I turned toward her. No, I hate every second of it. Then stop. I am stopping it. My mother leaned forward, eyes shining. Maya, I am your mother, and I am his. That silenced her. For once, she had no polished sentence ready. She whispered, You can't erase us. I didn't, I said. You did. I just stopped leaving the door unlocked. Randall asked for until 5 o'clock to decide. Vivian gave him until 5:01. At 4:47, the email came. Harper would withdraw the emergency guardianship petition, but only for now. While preserving all rights, Vivian called us immediately. No, she said before I asked. I was in the school pickup line. Noah came out wearing his green hoodie, scanning the cars for me. When he saw me, he waved like I might miss him from 20 feet away. No, I said. No, Vivian repeated. This is not a resolution. This is a pause. She wants to retreat without consequences and come back later. This was on speaker. So file, he said. I watched Noah climb into the car, cheeks pink from the cold, backpack half open. Mom, he said, did you know sharks are older than trees? Something settled in me. Yes, I told Vivian. File. When Noah was telling me about fossils, Vivian was preparing to put my mother's private cruelty into public record. The response was 23 pages. I read it at our kitchen table after Noah went to bed. Elias beside me, dishwasher humming softly like the house was trying to pretend life was normal. Dates did the work, quotes did the work, screenshots did the work. On April 16, 2014, petitioner hosted a baby shower at which she publicly stated the unborn child would not carry the Harper name. On June 23, 2014, after the minor child's birth, petitioner sent flowers to respondent Maya Bennett but did not acknowledge the child by name. Between June 2014 and October 2023, petitioner did not request visitation, did not provide support, did not attend birthdays, school events, appointments, holidays, or milestones. On September 4, 2018, petitioner wrote to counsel for the Ruth Harper Trust, objecting to assets passing to future descendants outside what she called the Harper line. On November 6, 2023, petitioner filed the present action referencing family assets. There was no need to call my mother what she was. The paper let her vocabulary testify. Culturally unstable activist influences, maternal heritage, Harper line, outside the family. Elias read silently. When he finished, he pushed the laptop away and stood. For a moment, I thought he was angry. Then I realized he was trying not to cry. I went to him. I can handle what they think of me, he said, voice low. Handled worse from people who knew less. But seeing it written around Noah like that, his voice broke. I touched his face. I know, they don't even know him. I know, he loves volcanoes. Makes toast too dark because he says it tastes more serious. He says please to vending machines. That made me smile through tears. He does. Elias looked toward the hallway where our son slept. Him in a petition-like property that drifted too far from the fence. That sentence stayed with me. Vivian filed the next morning. Then the calls started. Aunt Marjorie left a voicemail saying private family matters should stay private. Then from Memphis texted that my mother was devastated. A woman from my mother's book club called and said, I hope you know Lorraine has cried for days. I asked, did she cry when she filed for custody? The woman went quiet. I don't know anything about that. Then you don't know enough to call me. Clara texted in paragraphs, you're humiliating Mom. You always make everything about race. Mom was trying to protect Noah. You're letting Elias turn you against us. Screenshotted everything and sent it to Vivian. Vivian replied, excellent. Keep not responding. Excellent. As if Clara had turned herself into an exhibit, the hearing was scheduled for December 18th, 3 weeks away. 3 weeks is a strange amount of times when someone has tried to take your child. Too long to hold your breath. Too short to live normally. We tried anyway. Noah had a school winter concert. He played a snowflake, which meant he stood in the second row wearing a white paper crown and sang exactly half the words while waving at us whenever he remembered we existed. Denise cried. Elias recorded the whole thing. I clapped until my palms hurt. Near the back of the auditorium, I saw my father, alone. He stood by the exit in a dark coat, half hidden behind a row of parents. My whole body tightened. Elias followed my gaze. Do you want me to handle it? No, I said. Not here. Did not approach. He watched Noah sing. His face did something I could not name. At the end, when children ran into the aisles, he disappeared. The next morning, an envelope arrived. No return address. Inside was a flash drive and a note in my father's handwriting. I should have stopped her sooner. No signature, just that. We took it to Vivian without plugging it into our computer. Her IT consultant opened it on a separate machine. Were 4 audio recordings. The first was dated 2 days before my mother called me. Vivian pressed play. My mother's voice filled the room. I am not going to sit here and watch Ruth's money go to that child while Clara loses everything. I answered, sharp and fast. It's not Ruth's money anymore. It's his. That's what the paper said. My father said, we don't know what the paper said. My mother replied, we know enough. A pause, then Clara, slower. What about custody? Mother's voice came back cold. We do not need custody. We need leverage. Vivian stopped the recording. Nobody spoke leverage. I had known in my bones, but knowing in your bones is different from hearing your mother say it in her own voice. Stood and walked to the window. His shoulders were rigid. Vivian looked at me. Can you continue? I nodded. The second recording had Clara asking if they could say I was unstable. My father said absolutely not. Said I'd kept a child from his maternal family for 9 years, and that was unstable. The third was worse. My mother said, Maya was always weak where family was concerned. If I can get her in a room, she'll fold. She always does. Clara laughed. She used to cry if you didn't like her haircut, my mother said. Exactly. I looked down at my hands. They did not shake. That surprised me. Maybe because I was not the girl with the haircut anymore. Because motherhood had burned a different kind of spine into me. The fourth recording was brief, my father's voice low and strained. You're going to destroy what's left of this family, my mother answered. No. That when she married him. Silence, then my father said, his name is Elias. The recording ended, his name is Elias. 4 words, 9 years late. Still, they landed somewhere, not forgiveness, not gratitude, but recognition, maybe. This coin dropped into a debt too large to pay. 2 days before the hearing, Pastor William called. He was 70, soft-spoken, and had baptized me when I was 11. My mother had asked him to talk sense into me. Instead, he said, up the docket. That stopped me. You what? I was uncomfortable with the way your mother described it. I sat on the edge of my bed, Pastor Williams sighed. Your grandmother came to me before she died. She asked me to witness a letter. Legally, personally. She wanted someone outside the family to know she had written it, in case it disappeared. My heart started pounding. Do you still have it? A copy. Yes. What does it say? Concerns your mother's objections to your marriage and Ruth's fear that any child you had would be treated as conditional kin. Conventional kin. My grandmother had always known how to cut cleanly. Can you send it to Vivian Cole? Yes. Today? Yes. The letter arrived that afternoon. Ruth had written it 6 months before she died. Lorraine believes lineage can be protected by exclusion. I believe exclusion is how families rot from the inside. If Maya has a child is my great-grandchild. No marriage, no surname, no prejudice disguised as tradition will alter that fact. If anyone attempts to deny that child's place while seeking the benefits of that child's inheritance, this letter stand as my answer. No one word. No, I read it out loud to Elias. When I finished, he sat very still. Then he said, I wish I'd met her. She would have liked you. No, he said, smiling faintly. She would have inspected me first. Made me laugh through tears. Yes, she would have. The courthouse smelled like wet coats, floor polish, and old fear. Noah stayed home with Denise and Elias's father. We told him the grown-up paperwork problem had a meeting. Asked if the paperwork was in trouble. Elias said a little bit. Noah nodded seriously. Good. My mother arrived with Clara and Randall. My father arrived alone. He looked at me once across the hallway. Then he looked at Elias and nodded. Did not nod back at first. Then, after a second, he did small, measured, but real. My mother saw it and looked away. Judge Marin Ellis was silver-haired, sharp-eyed, tired in the way judges get tired when too many adults use children as weapons. Randall spoke first. He said Lorraine Harper was a concerned grandmother. He said family estrangement had caused misunderstandings. He said. Mrs. Says Harper sought only a relationship with her grandson and wanted him to understand his maternal heritage. Then he said they were willing to consider structured visitation instead of guardianship. Structured visitation. As if my son were a library room. Vivian stood. Your Honor, this case is not about a grandmother who lost contact after a meaningful relationship. This is about a woman who rejected a child before birth, maintained no relationship for 9 years, discovered the child was beneficiary of a family trust, and then filed an emergency custody petition containing racially coded attacks on the child's father and home. Randall objected. The judge looked at him. On what grounds? He hesitated. Mentative. This is argument, Mr. Pierce. It's a hearing. He sat down. Vivian entered the documents one by one, the baby shower account, the hospital card, the timeline, the texts, the email about the Harper line. Monum entered the room like a stone placed on a scale. Then Judge Ellis looked at my mother. Mrs. Harper, did you write that assets should remain within the Harper line? My mother swallowed. I was grieving. That was not my question. Yes, Judge placed the email down. Are you alleging Noah Bennett is not Ruth Harper's descendant? No, Your Honor. Biologically, of course. Legally? No. Then what did you mean? Randall stood. Honor, I am asking what she meant by her own sentence. My mother looked at Clara. Clara stared at her lap. My father closed his eyes. My mother said quietly, I meant that Maya had separated herself from our family. Judge Ellis leaned back. Marrying Mr. Bennett? Silence. Then my mother said yes. The word entered the record, yes. Not shouted, not dramatic. Just there. The truth, plain and ugly, wearing pearls. Vivian introduced Ruth's letter next. Judge allowed it for family context and intent. Vivian read the final lines. If anyone attempts to deny that child's place while seeking the benefits of that child's inheritance, let this letter stand as my answer, no. When Vivian said the word, something moved through the courtroom that was not law exactly. It was my grandmother, not as a ghost, as a woman whose handwriting had outlived my mother's control. Then Vivian said, Your Honor, of audio recordings supplied by Grant Harper. My mother turned so fast her pearl earrings swung. What? Clara whispered. Dad. My father stood slowly. The judge asked if he had made the recordings. Yes, Your Honor. When? The dates listed. Why? My father looked at my mother, then at me. Because I knew what they were doing was wrong, and I had spent too many years being quiet. The judge allowed the first recording. My mother's voice filled the courtroom. Not going to sit here and watch Ruth's money go to that child while Clara loses everything. Then Clara. If Maya controls it, she'll never help us. Then my mother. We do not need custody, we need leverage. The recording stopped. Moments after, it was not empty, it was full. My mother sat frozen. Clara looked sick. Randall stared at the table. Judge Ellis removed her glasses. Mr. Pierce, she said, do you need to confer with your client? Randall stood too fast. Yes. Honor, the judge called a recess. As they passed us, Clara looked at me with pure hatred. This is your fault, she whispered. No, I said. This is your voice. My mother looked at my father. You recorded me. He nodded. You betrayed me. First time in my life, my father did not shrink from her anger. No, Lorraine, he said. I documented you. That sentence landed harder than a shout. After the recess, Randall's confidence was gone. Informed the court that Mrs. Harper wished to withdraw her petition. Vivian stood. My client's request dismissal with prejudice, attorney's fees, and an order prohibiting contact with the minor child's school, medical providers, trust administrator. Judge Ellis reviewed her notes, then she looked directly at my mother. Mrs. Harper, this court does not exist to provide leverage in family financial disputes. You rejected this child for 9 years, then attempted to use legal process to gain access or influence after learning of assets held for his benefit. That is not concern, that is bad faith. My mother's face went white, the judge continued. The petition is dismissed with prejudice. Petitioner is ordered not to contact the minor child, his school, medical providers, or the trustee. Any communication with the parents must go through counsel unless otherwise invited in writing. Attorney's fees are awarded to respondents. Amount to be submitted. The gavel came down. It was not loud, but it ended 9 years of my mother believing she could rename cruelty until everyone else accepted the label. Outside the courtroom, Clara was crying angry tears. Stood near the wall, one hand pressed to her chest. For 1 second, I thought she might apologize. Instead, she said, Your grandmother never meant for it to be like this. I looked at her. Yes, she did. My mother flinched. Down. Elias and I walked away. My father followed us to the courthouse steps. Maya, he said. I stopped but did not turn around right away. Elias stayed beside me. My father's voice broke. I am sorry. I turned then. Smaller than ever, not because he was weak, though maybe he was. Because the man I had built in my mind as enormous had finally become human-sized. I know you are, I said. Hope crossed his face. I let it exist for 1 second. Then I said, I don't know what to do with that yet. He nodded slowly. That's fair. It may be fair for a long time. I know. I looked at him, this man who had taken 9 years to say 4 words and one recording to choose truth. Thank you for the flash drive, I said, his eyes filled. You shouldn't have needed it. No, I said, I shouldn't have. That was all no hug, no reunion on courthouse steps. Life is not that clean. But when Elias and I got into the car, feel empty. I felt tired and free. 6 weeks later, the fee order came through. My mother was required to pay our legal costs. The trust remained untouched. Vivian sent a letter to Noah's school and pediatrician. Installed a camera at our front door, not because we were afraid, but because peace deserves locks. My mother did not contact me. Clara tried once through a new number. You ruined this family. I blocked it. Sent one card for Noah's birthday in June. He sent it to Vivian first as required. Inside was a plain card with a picture of a telescope on the front. It said, Noah, I do not expect anything from you. Wanted to wish you a happy birthday. I heard you like science. I hope you keep asking big questions. Grant Harper. There was no money, no demand, no mention of grandfather. Vivian forwarded it to us and asked what we wanted to do. And I talked for a long time, then we showed Noah. We did not pretend. We told him this was from my father, a man who had made serious mistakes and was not part of our life right now. Noah read the card twice. Then he said, Can I keep it in my question box? His question box was a shoebox under his bed where he kept things he did not understand yet. I said, Yes. That summer, Noah asked more. Children always do. Told him the truth in pieces big enough to hold, but not heavy enough to crush him. Some people in my family were unkind about our marriage. Some people did not treat his dad with respect. Some people wanted something that belonged to him. Said no. Grandma Ruth loved him before she met him. That part made him smile. She did. Yes, I said, very much. How I touched his curls. Some people are good at loving forward. He thought about that, then he said, I like her. Too. The trust did what Ruth intended. Not as a prize, not as revenge, as protection. It paid for Noah's specialized science camp when he turned 10. For tutoring when he struggled with writing essays because his thoughts moved faster than his pencil. Later, it would help with college, maybe a first apartment, maybe whatever life he built with his own 2 hands. My mother had seen money, had seen shelter. That was the difference between them. A year after the hearing, I drove past my parents' church by accident. There was a charity banner outside, and women carrying trays into the fellowship hall. For a moment, I saw my mother in my memory, standing with a champagne glass, speaking over my unborn child like she had authority over his belonging. The old pain rose, then it passed. Not because it stopped mattering, because it stopped deciding. That evening, and Elias were in the backyard building a cardboard model of a courthouse for a school project. Noah had insisted on adding a secret tunnel for emotional emergencies. Stood on the porch watching them argue gently about whether courthouses needed drawbridges. Elias looked up at me and smiled. The porch light came on behind me. For years, I thought family was the room you were allowed to enter. I was wrong. Family is not the room. Family is who notices when you are standing outside and opens the door without making you beg. My mother thought she could deny my son, then claim him when his name became useful. She thought I would fold because I had folded before. She thought old wounds made good handles, but she forgot one thing. I was not just her daughter anymore, I was his mother. And the day she reached for my child, the careful girl she remembered, finally stopped answering to her name.